Hey, my friends, it's Dave Slomka, and welcome to a new episode of Dave's I Believe in You. Every 2 weeks, I release another podcast where you can find expert guidance from the sources that I've been learning from and a community of people like yourself who want to grow and change. So let me be your encourager. With God, your life can be better. You can change. Your best days are still ahead of you. I believe in you. If you are finding these podcasts helpful, then please be sure to hit the like button, give me some stars, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Please share this podcast with 3 friends and help them grow, move forward in their lives, and make a difference in our world. And with that, let's get started. We all actually like change. And by that, I mean we can picture things being better for ourselves or our family or our organization. It's change that we desire for our lives so that things can be better. Now, this 2-part podcast is about giving you some tools to help you make those changes because we all get stuck sometimes, and those good changes that we want to make seem to elude us. Now, this is actually from the At the Table podcast with Patrick Lencioni, and it's the Navigating the Neutral Zone number 81. Now, this is part 2, so you might want to go back and listen to episode 6 first. And I'll put the links for all of this in the notes so you can find the source material and really dig deeper if you want. Let's start with a quick review from part 1. Now, this material is based on the teaching of Bill Bridges, where he taught that change is easy, transition is hard. People like change. What they don't like is the emotional process of going through transition, because that involves loss. Even positive change involves loss, and nobody likes loss. It also involves choosing your response, so you don't be stuck as a victim to the loss, and ceremonializing the end of what you're moving away from so you can move forward in life. And that's the good news. Now, the bad news is that things get worse before they get better. Because after you say goodbye to the loss, then you have to move forward into what's called the neutral zone. That's where you have burned your ships from the past, you're fully committed and you can't go back, but you don't yet feel comfortable with the new thing. We sometimes call this buyer's remorse, where you regret a decision that you've made. So you're 4 days into the new job, or you're into the new marriage, or cleaning up after breaking up, and you're thinking, what have I done? Now, everyone has buyer's remorse, and that's natural because they have said goodbye to the old comfort. And now they're out in the area of discomfort, and most people hate discomfort. This is the neutral zone. It's the time of greatest uncertainty and fear and doubt, but it's also the time of the greatest growth and innovation and progress. It's something that everyone has to go through in their life and in an organization. In this podcast, we'll look at the neutral zone, the 2 big categories, and then a few bonus thoughts at the end. So let's start with the neutral zone. There is a visual process of the transition that looks kind of like a flag, where the neutral zone is a big blob right in the middle. And there'll be a link to that in the notes. The transition process is not straightforward. It's not linear. We say goodbye to our losses and our endings, and we take a step, but then we step back again into the loss and our ending and our second guessing ourselves. And even after the ceremony to say goodbye to the ending, it's not all cheering and enthusiasm. The ships are on fire. You can't go back. Now what? There are things you can do to get yourself through the neutral zone in the most productive and quickest way possible. If you don't follow the process to get through the neutral zone, you're going to struggle. And the worst thing that can happen to you is that either you get stuck, or you'll want to go back to the old thing, which is really not healthy, or you'll give up, or in an organization, people will actually quit and stay. Meaning they will say they're not leaving, they're actually sticking around, but they won't help. Instead, they'll complain and just get bitter and coast. Now, in every change, this process of moving forward through the neutral zone takes place. The second thing is the big categories. These are things that people need to go through in order to process through the neutral zone. The old way of doing things is gone. The new way hasn't yet arrived. For example, you just become an empty nester and you've got no children living at home. Or you've started the new job, but it's still very unfamiliar and strange. Strange people, strange processes, strange routines, strange culture. So what do? You start with the 2 C's. When a person or organization is going through the neutral zone, they need care and concern. These are critical. Men often like to solve the problem And so Patrick talked about his wife after she left a company and she was in that neutral zone. And he came home one day and she was looking sad and having some doubts. And so Patrick went into problem solving mode and he charted out the next steps for her. And then when he had finished, he kind of looked at her and she had tears in her eyes. And when he asked her, look, what's wrong? She said she just wanted him to listen or even just give her a hug. Now, I got to confess that I may have done that more than a few times myself with my wife and my kids. And people get in the neutral zone and they haven't lost their mind. They're still smart. They just need to be reassured that it's normal to feel this way. It's going to be okay. We often want to solve the problem for people, especially our kids, but there's a huge role here of care and concern. Anyone who's providing support through a transition needs to say it's okay. It's okay to vent or complain or struggle or doubt. You need to reassure them that everyone goes through this process. Everyone struggles with this in the neutral zone, and you will too. Even a child going back to in-person schooling is going to struggle because it's strange, which means loss. That change always brings loss. You have to remember that they need care and concern. If you're going through a transition, you can't overlook these things. So get support so that others can provide the care and concern that you need as you go through these transitions as well. I want to take a moment in the middle here to let you know about an opportunity that I have for you. If you are wanting to grow and change, then just like in sports, having a coach can make a significant difference. So right now I'm going through some life coach training, and as part of that training, I need to coach a couple of people. And since you're listening and you're investing in your own growth, I thought I would offer to coach a couple of you who are listening to this for free. You'll get some free coaching sessions while I do my training. And all you need to do to be a part of this is to email me at dave@daveslomka.com. And that's DAVESLOMKA. And I'm going to draw a couple of names, and it could be you. Since I'm still growing the podcast, now is a great time to put your name in. Take a step to invest in yourself, your life, and your growth. So next to the important pieces are the 4 Ps. And these are a little bit more programmatic than the 2 Cs. People need to be reminded of these 4 simple things while they're in the neutral zone. We need to give them and ourselves constant reminders. So number 1 is be reminded of the purpose. Why are you going through this change? Why are you even doing it in the first place? Why is it good that the student goes back to in-person learning? You get better relationships and more focused learning and new experiences. And it seems obvious to us, but we forget. And so Patrick tells the story of a CEO whose company was losing money fast and was just 6 months from going out of business. And they realized they needed to update their product and to leave the old product behind in order to survive. Now, months into this change, the engineers started to complain. They were worrying about the new product and would it work, and maybe we should just go back to the old product. And so the CEO asked Patrick, what do I do? And Patrick said, remind them of the purpose. So the CEO pulled back out the chart that showed their downward trend heading towards bankruptcy and the old product and the need to update to solve and survive as a company. And so the engineers were like, oh yeah, of course. That's what we have to do. They were reminded of the purpose. We quickly forget and we need that reminder. Purpose is necessary. Now, it's necessary, but it's not the only thing on its own. And so you think about this from the Bible, Moses bringing the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. And then not long after they get free, they start to complain and grumble. So you have to move on to number 2. Number 2 is have a picture of what you are heading towards. Moses didn't just remind the Israelites of their freedom from slavery, he pointed them to the promised land. The benefit of the vision of how life is going to be better. Picture it. People constantly need to picture what's coming. And it sounds a little bit cheesy, but you need to do your best to envision it. It might not turn out exactly as you pictured, but you need something to keep your eyes focused on. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but imagine what the future might look like, that preferred area you're trying to get to. Now, the 3rd P is plan. And the plan is where you get very practical. You have to break things down into chunks with shorter term goals. And if we don't have a doable plan, it becomes way harder. Now, an example of this would be a budget, making a budget for the year. And in that, some people are better at the big picture of the budget. Others are really good at how we're going to get there. Then you need to revisit those maybe weekly or monthly in order to live them out. Now, that can be hard for some people. So If you're the big picture person, that's great. If you're not the plan person, get some help with that. Now, part 4 is the role. What is the role, the part that I play? Get people involved in a group transition, or let other people in to play a role in your transition. An example is the guy from Netscape. Lost his job and was worried about the future. How am I going to pay for my kids' university? How do I structure my finances? And he said, look, I need to get one of my friends who is good with finances to counsel me. And I have another friend who's been laid off before. I need to get together with him to help me process this. And then I need my wife to do these things for me. In other words, surround yourself with people who can help you or who can help someone else who's going through the transition. It also makes the transition more real, and it gives you a little bit more control when you give people a role to play in that transition, or if you invite them into your transition so that you can get through that neutral zone. Now, when you do the C's and the P's, things start to grow and innovation happens. Now, in that image, we talk about a flag that shows kind of the transition process. You eventually get to the right side and a new beginning. And you wake up and you realize one day that things are better, that you have arrived and the transition is actually done. You've left behind the old things, you've embraced the new things. And in the end, right, people like change. It's the transition that's hard. Once the transition is done, then we can embrace the new. We get comfortable with the new. Personally, I've been going through some significant transitions this year. Actually, I guess around the last 6 months. And it's about work and relationships. So the reminder that this is a natural part of the process and not to give up is very encouraging for me. And I hope it is for you. Maybe that's where you find yourself as well. Cut yourself some slack and don't give up. If you're not in a transition, then you'll need to be there soon because growth is all about change. And so if you want to get to what's better, it always involves some loss and transitioning to something new. Having a process to help you with that transition is so valuable. I'm working through the process from last week, talking it over, making my choices, looking at ceremonies to say goodbye and end things. But now I also need to make sure that the 2 C's and the 4 P's are being baked into what I'm doing and that I'm actually going after them. Putting time to this makes you so much better in terms of your success at going through that neutral zone for yourself or whatever group you're a part of. Now, some bonus thoughts. 1, if a change is rocky, then go back to the 2 C's and 4 P's because you probably missed one or you didn't do it very well. Number 2, most transitions are about 2 to 6 months long. If it's too long, then people have a harder time believing in the vision. But regardless, there needs to be constant reminders of the C's and the P's. Number 3 they gave us was there can be transitions in transitions. Like a transition when you move can also involve a transition for your child going through a new school. The 4th one was positive change is just as hard as negative because there's loss in both. Don't assume because it's positive, it's going to be easy. And then number 5, you get stronger when you work through this process. The beginning of any change is a little scary, but that's not a reason to give up. Next episode, we're going to hear from the Brendan Show podcast talking about how to develop discipline in your life. There's actually a way to intentionally grow your discipline so that it becomes easier over time. And that will be out in 2 weeks. If you want more detailed notes, then go to daveslomka.com and subscribe there. But until then, make sure to share this episode with a few people. Let's share the encouragement around and show others that we believe in them. There are people in your life who want to make a change in their lives, and they want to make a difference in this world. Please leave a comment or review. It's so helpful for me. Every day is a good day to grow and change. I believe in you. With God in your life, anything is possible. So go out there and make that change.